Hi, y'all. You know what time it is. Get into it! Yes! Hello, my lovelies. We are back with Storytime with Chris. As I always say, kids, for the children that are watching, there is a powerful thing when it comes to accepting that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to be upset. Two lessons my therapist has taught me. There are two different specific phrases. One that was really hard for me to really articulate and say because for so long I've allowed myself to repress and bottle up feelings of when I'm upset or when things hurt me. So she told me this phrase, like, I give myself permission to be upset. And the other one she taught me was, I love you, but you hurt me. And those two phrases are very important because we do have people in our lives, friends, family, loved ones, who may do things unintentionally so that will hurt you, or do things purposefully that are mean-spirited and hurtful. And rather than be upset with them, forgive those people and acknowledge that, yes, I do love you, whoever the person may be in your situation. But you did hurt me. And then elaborate on what that hurt was and then move on from it. Don't stay with it. Because holding grudges, allowing yourself to get mixed up in things that are not that deep is not progressive. It's not. Like I said, it's okay to not be okay. And as somebody like myself who has lived with severe depression and anxiety for years, and I mean all the way back, I was officially diagnosed, if I'm not mistaken, 2015. So, I love life. I love you all. I love my home, my wonderful friends, my books, my tea mugs, my manga, my anime that I watch, my comics. Shout out to DC Comics. Shout out to some keyword is some Marvel titles. Dark Horse Comics, Image Comics, the list goes on. There are going to be hard days. We can't escape that. That's what it means to be human, is that life will bring us challenge, and it's up to us to see challenge and stare at it in the face, though it may be scary, though it may be intimidating, to meet challenge with strength, with courage, with resilience, perseverance, determination, so that nobody or nothing could ever defeat us. My mother has always said the defeatist attitude does not suit me, and it does not suit you. So, without further ado, we are here with Anne of Green Gables, and yet again, my glasses are filthy, and I'm really contemplating getting contacts as time has gone on. I'm definitely getting contacts. I think what I'm going to do is get prescription frames of glasses and then get a set of contacts. I think that would be really beneficial for me, especially as somebody who sings and performs occasionally. It's so much easier to have contacts on, because without glasses I can't see. I can see the audience or I can see somebody in front of me, but it's very blurred unless it's really up close. Hence the power of nearsightedness. Shout out and comment below if you are a nearsighted person. And the farsighted people, you're accepted too, but specifically more so for me as someone who's nearsighted. For all the nearsighted people, comment below. Now, without further ado, we will begin. Oh, okay. So we won't be too long on this one, but we will try to make it as magical as possible. Chapter 24. Miss Stacy and her pupils get up a concert. It was October again when Anne was ready to go back to school. A glorious October. all red and gold, with mellow mornings when the valleys were filled with delicate mists, as if the spirit of autumn had poured them in for the sun to drain. Amethyst, pearl, silver, rose, and smoke blue. The dews were so heavy that the fields glistened like a cloth of silver, and there were such heaps of rustling leaves in the hollows of many-stemmed woods to run crisply through. The birch path was a canopy of yellow, and the ferns were sere and brown all along it. There was a tang in the very air that inspired the hearts of small maidens tripping, unlike snails, swiftly and willingly to school. And it was jolly to be back again at the little brown desk beside Diana, with Ruby Gillis nodding across the aisle, and Carrie Sloane setting up notes, and Julia Bell passing a chew of gum down from the back seat. Anne drew a long breath of happiness as she sharpened her pencil and arranged her picture cards in her desk. Life was certainly very interesting. In the new teacher she found another true and helpful friend. Miss Stacy was a bright, sympathetic young woman with a happy gift of winning and holding the affections of her pupils, bringing out the best that was in them mentally and morally. Anne expanded like a flower under this wholesome influence, and carried home to the admiring Matthew and the critical Marilla glowing accounts of schoolwork and aims.
I love Miss Stacy with all my whole heart, Marilla. She is so ladylike, and she has such a sweet voice. When she pronounces my name, I feel instinctively that she's spelling it with an E. We had recitations this afternoon. I just wish you could have been there to hear me recite Mary Queen of Scots. I just put my whole soul into it. Ruby Gillis told me coming home that the way I said the line, "Now for my father's arms," she said, "my woman's heart, farewell," just made her blood run cold. Well, now,
You might recite it for me some of these days out in the barn, suggested Matthew.
Of course I will, said Anne meditatively, but I won't be able to do it so well, I know. It won't be so exciting as when you have it in a whole school full, before you hang breathlessly on your words. My apologies, y'all. I'm tripping on my words. Got my yerba mate tea. Fun fact, y'all, I don't like coffee. I'm not a huge caffeine person, really. I love tea. Love tea. Love herbal tea, mostly. Definitely have some favorites when it comes to black tea. Certain green teas I love, but I love tea. Tea is life. And I always try to tell my friends, I would rather you have either a cup of coffee or a cup of black tea than to have, like, any energy drinks. And I understand why people take them, and there's no judgment in this house. There is none. But as somebody that loves you and your health and your well-being, I want people to drink stuff that, actually is in some ways good for you. It doesn't put a shock to the system. Mrs. Lynde says it made her blood run cold to see the boys climbing to the very tops of those big trees on Bell's Hill after Crow's Nest last Friday, said Marilla. I wonder at Miss Stacy for encouraging it. But we wanted a crow's nest for nature study, exclaimed Anne. That was our field afternoon. Field afternoons are splendid, Marilla, and Miss Stacy explains everything so beautifully. We have to write compositions on our field afternoons, and I write the best ones.
It's very vain of you to say so. Sorry, I had a message come through. My apologies. It's very vain of you to say so, then. You'd better let your teacher say it.
But she did say it, Marilla, and indeed I'm not vain about it. How can I be when I'm such a dunce at geometry? Although I'm really beginning to see through it a little, too. Miss Stacy makes it so clear. Still, I'll never be good at it, and I assure you it is a humbling reflection. But I love writing compositions. Mostly Miss Stacy lets us choose our own subjects, but next week we're to write a composition on some remarkable person. It's hard to choose among so many remarkable people who've lived. Mustn't it be splendid to be remarkable and have compositions written about you after you're dead? Oh, I would dearly love to be remarkable. I think when I grow up I'll be a trained nurse and go with the Red Crosses to the field of battle as a messenger of mercy. That is, if I don't go out as a foreign missionary. That would be very romantic. But one would have to be very good to be a missionary, and that would be a stumbling block. We have physical culture exercises every day, too. They make you graceful and promote digestion.
Promote fiddlesticks, said Marilla, who honestly thought it was all nonsense.
But all the field afternoons and recitation Fridays and physical cultural contortions paled before a project which Miss Stacy brought forward in November. This was that the scholars of Avalia School should get up a concert and hold it in the hall on Christmas night for the laudable purpose of helping to pay for a schoolhouse flag. The pupils, one and all, taking graciously to this plan, the preparations for a program were begun at once. And of all the excited performers-elect, none was so excited as Anne Shirley, who threw herself into the undertaking heart and soul, hampered as she was by Marilla's disapproval. Marilla thought it all rank foolishness. "It's just filling your heads up with nonsense and taking time that ought to be put on your lessons," she grumbled. "I don't approve of children getting up concerts and racing about to practices. It makes them vain and forward and fond of gadding."
"But think of the worthy object," pleaded Anne. "A flag will cultivate a spirit of patriotism, Marilla."
"Fudge! There's precious little patriotism in the thoughts of any of you. All you want is a good time."
"Well, when you combine patriotism and fun, isn't it all right? Of course it's real nice to be getting up a concert. We're going to have 6 choruses and Diana's to sing a solo. I'm in 2 dialogues, the Society for the Suppression of Gossip and the Fairy Queen. The boys are going to have a dialogue too, and I'm to have 2 recitations, Marilla. I just tremble when I think of it, but it's a nice, thrilling kind of tremble. And we're to have a tableau at the last, Faith, Hope, and Charity. Diana and Rudy and I are to be in it, all draped in white with flowing hair. I'm to be Hope with my hands clasped,"
Which is like this. Being silly.
and my eyes uplifted. I'm going to practice my recitations in the garret. Don't be alarmed if you hear me groaning. I have to groan heart-renderingly in one of them, and it's really hard to get up a good artistic groan, Marilla. Josie Pye is sulky because she didn't get the part she wanted in the dialogue. She wanted to be the Fairy Queen. That would have been ridiculous, for whoever heard of a Fairy Queen as fat as Josie?
Which is not nice to say to somebody, kids. You don't call somebody fat. Even if somebody is thick and bigger, that's not okay to say that. It's not nice.
Fairy Queens must be slender. Jane Andrews is to be the queen, and I'm to be one of her maids of honor. Josie says she thinks a red-hair fairy is just as ridiculous as a fat one, but I do not let myself mind what Josie says. I'm to have a wreath of white roses on my hair, and Ruby Gillis is going to lend me her slippers because I haven't any of my own. It's necessary for fairies to have slippers, you know. You couldn't imagine a fairy wearing boots, could you? Especially with copper toes. We're going to decorate the hall with creeping spruce and fir myrtles with pink tissue paper roses in them, and we're all to march in 2 by 2 after the audience is seated, while Emma White plays a march on the organ. Oh, Marilla, I know you're not as enthusiastic about it as I am, but don't you hope your little Anne will distinguish herself?
All I hope is that you'll behave yourself. I'll be heartily glad when all this fuss is over and you'll be able to settle down. You are simply good for nothing just now with your head stuffed full of dialogues and groans and tableaux. As for your tongue, it's a marvel it's not clean wore out. Anne sighed and betook herself to the backyard, over which a young new moon was shining through the leafless poplar boughs from an apple-green western sky, where Matthew was splitting wood. Anne perched herself on a block and talked the concert over with him, sure of an appreciative and sympathetic listener in this instance at least. "Well, now, I reckon it's going to be a pretty good concert, and I expect you'll do your part fine," he said, smiling down to her eager, vivacious little face. Anne smiled back at him. Those two were the best of friends, and Matthew thanked his stars many a time and oft that he had nothing to do with breaking her up. That was Marilla's exclusive duty. If it had been his, he would have been worried over frequent conflicts between inclination and said duty. As it was, he was free to spoil Anne, Marilla's phrasing, as much as he liked. But it was not such a bad arrangement after all. A little appreciation sometimes does quite as much good as all the contentious bringing up in the world. And that is where we are going to end for tonight. There she is. Our titular character, our title character, Anne of Green Gables. So,
We're on chapter 25. We still got a ways to go. We are halfway through, but still got a good amount to go. But I love you all. Thank you all so much for your support, for people who have called me and checked on me today. Y'all, I really need y'all to understand, like, that means a lot. I try to tell people, like, you never know what people go through behind closed doors. And a kind word or a listening ear it's a heavenly gift. It's a gift from the universe when somebody is compassionate to you. See y'all later.